Success comes from not being afraid of failure, from being willing to take action amongst criticism, ridicule, failure, right? There's lots of reasons why people don't take action.
Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, a Ben Kinney training production, where we discuss the concepts of health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. Today, we're going to talk about taking action. So I'm going to send it right over to my friend Bob. Bob, let's take some action and get started.
Sounds good, Chad. So, Ben, I want you to close your eyes for me and imagine two people. Okay, they're the same age. They grew up in the same neighborhood. Went to the same school, same GPA, same SAT scores. But both real smart people getting started in life. Now I want you to imagine them 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later. And we look at these two people, and one of them is having major successes, has done lots of great things, and the other one is still kind of stuck in that same place in life from when they kind of set out. Why the difference between these two people?
You know, Bob, it's a good comment. I think we talked about it in our courage and bravery episode. We said that in order to be courageous or to be brave, you got to do two things. One, you gotta be willing to take risks, and two, you got to be willing to take action. Right? So the people that get far enough or get further in life, they have a habit of actually taking action. I read a quote somewhere that says, hey, we're not rewarded for what we know, but rather for what we do. And we look around and find tons and tons of super smart people. People that read a lot, that know a lot, that just freaking kill it in Jeopardy every night, you know.
I'm a good Jeopardy player.
They're definitely your first round draft pick for Trivial Pursuit, you know, right? Totally not us. But they also don't get very far in life. And I think one of the problems is, Chad, that they don't take action.
Why don't they? Simple question, Ben. Why do you think these people don't take action with all the knowledge they might have?
Probably a long list of 10, 20, 50, 100 different things. But, you know, at the top of my mind, fear of failing, fear of making a mistake. They're waiting for other people to do something.
Okay.
It's not the right time. They're afraid of what other people might say, if they'll ridicule them. They think it's too late. They think they don't have enough time. They have fear of uncertainty. I mean, there's a million reasons why people don't take action. And along with that, there's a million examples of people who did, and they were extremely successful. You know, one of the ones that comes to mind is James Dyson. You guys probably know him as the founder of
Dyson Vacuum.
Yeah. Those things suck. Dyson Vacuum, right? You look up and you say, man, James Dyson is incredibly successful. He must have had it easy. He must have done the right thing, right? Look at him. Look at how smart he was. You know what he was good at? Failing. You know how many times he failed? 5,271 times. He made a prototype for a vacuum that nobody wanted to buy, that nobody was willing to make. 5,271 times he made something that nobody wanted. In fact, he spent the vast majority of his career trying to perfect a vacuum cleaner. Only at the end, when he finally came up with something that was truly incredible, nobody in the US, nobody in Europe, nobody in the world wanted to even license it. Nobody wanted to manufacture his product. So finally, in 1993, James Dyson just started his own manufacturing company to create Dyson vacuums.
And as we were looking at this in 1983, 10 years prior to that is when he'd finally made the prototype that was the one he was going to use. After 5,200 failures, right, in 1983, he comes up with the prototype. It takes him another 10 years to get somebody to actually manufacture it. And he never even found somebody to manufacture it. He ends up manufacturing it himself.
You and I were talking about one of the reasons that vacuum companies hated his model was what?
He got rid of the bag
Remember those bags on the vacuum cleaners
Oh,
as
those things
kids?
were
Like you grab
nasty.
you like touch it and you got like this plume of stuff that goes into your face and your nostrils of probably, I don't even know what was in there, but it was nasty, right? What an inefficient, horrible way to do things. But they liked it because the vacuum bags created
Revenue.
and brand loyalty. Because you had to use, like, there's a special vacuum bag for this vacuum, and you can't use somebody else's bag.
I can remember I can remember when I was a young kid, we had a vacuum cleaner and it must have just been a really old one. You couldn't get the bags anymore. So at the very end of the life of that vacuum cleaner, we used to have to dump that stupid bag out and just reuse it over and over and over again. Maybe that's because we were
You were
poor.
inventing the Dyson. You
Yeah.
were dumping out the bag and reusing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and at that time, Ben, it was like just in the United Kingdom, which is where he originally started Dyson, that was $100 million business, vacuum cleaner bags. And he said, look, that's not best for the consumer. Like, I'm going to make something that my clients actually want, right? Not this revenue stream for the company.
Sounds like Dyson's the kind of guy who would have won with you, Ben, because he didn't follow the status quo.
No,
he got rid of that.
He kept pushing. And he was able to fail 5,271 times. But what I like about that story is he didn't start from scratch 5,271 times. Like, imagine that he did this for a period of 15 years. You take 15 years divided by 5,271.
Bob?
Sorry.
351 prototypes per year,
Which means he's doing one a day.
One a day.
Every
He
day.
made one new prototype every day, which means he couldn't have started from scratch. What he did is he made incremental improvements every single day through failure until he ended up with one that was really awesome. And that blows my mind. Like, that is a really cool story of somebody says, I'm going to take action and I'm not going to allow 5,270 failures stop me from being successful. And even once he made it, he still wasn't successful because nobody wanted to buy his stuff.
It makes you wonder if there's some correlation between like how many times you fail till when you ultimately have success, if that correlates to like how big your success actually is.
Well, Edison failed, 10,000 times, where he says, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. I would think that's a pretty big invention.
Yeah, Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, which I'm still a little bit confused on the whole Spanx situation, right? She sold fax machines door to door for years and years while she was trying to launch her brand.
She sold what, Ben?
Spanx?
No.
Fax machine.
Fax machines.
Fax machines?
Yeah.
Fax machines.
That's the thing with the paper that always curled up on itself that we don't even use anymore.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's right. Success comes from not being afraid of failure, from being willing to take action amongst criticism, ridicule, failure, right? There's lots of reasons why people don't take action. If we were to take a poll out there and we were to say, hey, Win, Make, Give listeners, how many of you ever thought of writing a book?
Raise your hand.
Wait, we can't see him.
That's all right.
It's a lot of them, right?
I'm
We all
sure.
have dreams of doing something, right?
Yep.
Running a marathon, writing a book, like whatever those things might be. What's the number one reason why people don't ever write a book?
No, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time for that. I mean, that would be my guess.
They don't have enough time for it. They're waiting until they have enough time.
Which
right?
never happens.
It never does. You never actually have more time. Your life consistently gets filled.
I think you always look to have extra time, Ben, because you used to drink those 5-hour energies 5 a day thinking you were going to get that 25th hour. Never worked that way.
and
Still 24 hours. Okay.
It never did. Well, a good example of somebody who didn't allow time to be a limiter on his life is a gentleman named Scott Turow. Scott is a successful, famous writer of thrillers, specifically around the legal world,
Yes.
right? And he wrote his first novel in, I think, 1987, give or take, while he was working 2,800 hours a year as an assistant U.S. attorney.
Yep.
He wrote his book called Presumed Innocent.
That's right. And for those of you out there who maybe haven't read it, but you're like, I recognize that, it's because it became a movie starring Harrison Ford that you've probably all seen.
I hope my life becomes a movie starring Harrison Ford.
Maybe Harrison Ford's grandchildren or something.
He still looks great. Come on.
He didn't have time to write a book. So what he did in order to complete his book, he wrote for around 26 minutes a day. Now, Bob, do you know why it was 26 minutes a day?
Well, only because I've done a little bit of research. Like, I think that was the amount of time it took him to get to work or something.
Divided by 2. Because he had 10 or 15 minute commute every day to get there.
So to and from.
And 10 or 15 minute commute to get home.
Okay.
So he basically wrote a book in 13-minute increments twice a day while doing all these other things. What else has he accomplished in his life?
I mean, other than being an assistant U.S. attorney in Chicago, I mean, that alone is big enough for anybody there, Ben. He was a member of the U.S. Senate Nomination Committee for the Northern District of Illinois. He was named the president of the Authors Guild. I mean, this isn't a guy who just said, all right, what can I do? And then just sat there where he was. He found the time to make these opportunities for himself.
Yep. You know, I read a lot of books, and I'm not a super good reader. I'm not a super good speller, and my grammar sucks too. Like, you combine it all together, I'm not real good at any of those fingers.
You're not the guy we were talking about in the beginning of this episode who had the really high GPA and the really high SAT scores.
Yeah, I'm not exactly the smart kid, right? I am the take action kid.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how I read. One, I read in 10 to 15 minute increments, 2 to 3 times a day. Before I get up, the very first thing I do, right, is I usually read for a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes.
That was going to be impressive. I thought you were going to say before you got up, like somehow while still sleeping, you managed to read for 10 or 15 minutes, because somehow you probably could figure that out.
I do sleep with my Bible just so I can absorb
Okay.
absorb it, right? And then at lunch, when I need a break, I'll sit on the couch or go for a walk or put in my AirPods and I'll listen or read a book for 10 or 15 minutes. And then at night before bed, I do it again. So I don't have time to read either. Like the rest of us, we're all busy, but I always have 10 minutes.
Yep.
A lot of us have 10 or 15 minutes that we could invest to doing that. Now, I happen to listen to Audible, and I can speed it up at 2 times or 2.5 or 2 1/4, or depending on the author, right? You can really increase it. So I can listen to an hour and a half or 2 hours of books every single day by simply listening for 10 to 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day.
So what I'm hearing is you're saying everyone has the time. That should not be the reason you don't get where you're going. You might need to be like Scott, who's finding 13 minutes twice a day to write. You might need to be like you, where you're finding 10, 15 minutes to listen to a book or read a book, because it'll all add up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So what the secret to getting what you want out of life is, Chad?
Wait, you're about to give us the secret to getting what we want out of life. This is awesome. I did not know we were coming in here today and we were going to get the answer to getting everything we want in life.
Pretty simple.
Okay.
It's just taking action.
Oh.
Being willing to get started.
Oh, I got to do something to get all the stuff I want?
I thought there was going to be something way better than that.
You got to do something right now.
It's not a
Okay.
pill?
You got to be willing to make mistakes. You got to be willing to listen to feedback.
Okay.
You got to be willing to correct, pivot, right? But the key is to always be moving forward, to have clear goals in your mind that you want to accomplish, to come up with an action plan to accomplish those goals, and divide those actions into small little steps. Now, one option would be every single day, figure out what is your short-term goal? What do I want to accomplish? And then take a piece of paper and write down 3 or 4 things that you could do today before the day's over that would move you one domino, one step closer to accomplishing that. And if you do that for your health, for your finances, for your business, for your personal growth, for your relationships, you're going to be a lot further. If you were to sit back and write down, what are 3 things that I could do to improve my relationship with Nita today? What are 3 things at the end of the day I could do? Bob, what are 3 things I could do to improve my push-ups by the end of the day, right? Our health change. What are 3 things that I could do to improve my finances today? If I could just do 3 things today, what would those 3 things be, right? And take action so we can actually move our goals forward. The only thing that would stop us is if we aren't protecting our actions, if we aren't protecting our ability to move forward. So we're going to give you a list of things that you can do to protect yourself so that you can take action.
I feel like we need some kind of a sound
it.
effect, Dave, that just
Love
rolls in
when
whenever
we
he says
come
a
with the
list.
lists. Here we go.
There's a list for everything, ladies and gentlemen.
How many are on the list, Ben?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
This is not a fixed list. This list is growing.
All right, here we go.
You know, the most successful people in the world focus on what's important first.
Okay.
They have a clear sense of priority.
Sounds like our priority episode that we dive into that deep. Everyone might want to go back and check that one out.
Yeah.
Okay.
They invest time to break their tasks, their goals into digestible chunks. One of the big problems is you can't move forward because it's too complicated. We always say that we tend to complicate things to justify our inactions. So one tip is to break tasks into smaller pieces. You know, people run into challenges in taking action because they run out of energy. They run out of energy because they don't come up with an energy plan. We did an episode on that, by the way.
Sure did.
To maintain their energy throughout the day. They run into challenges because they aren't efficient. They don't find repeatable shortcuts. They don't plan for things to go wrong, or they get caught in the myth of multitasking as something that's real. You have to come up with your list of things that you can do to bulletproof yourself every day so that you can take action on those 3, 4, or 5 things that are going to move yourself forward. That's the secret. We want to be James Dyson. We want to be Scott Turow. We want to have success when these other people are still standing at the start line saying, what just happened? Coming up with this big, long list of excuses on why nothing ever works out for them. I just don't have time for that. It's too late for me. Well, if only it would be the right time. If I only waited for prices to drop. I'm going to get into the market once stocks drop a little further, right? Or as soon as Chad does it, I'll do it. Or gosh, I can't believe I do that. It's too scary. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? Don't allow yourself to fall into a habit of not taking action.
I think that's a interesting sentence you just used to close there. Don't allow yourself to fall into the habit. Like, have you always been an action taker, Ben, or is this like a habit you've built? Obviously, the habit can be built, right? If you can fall into a habit of not taking action, you can do the opposite and become, habitually an action taker. But like, is this something you just always had in you, or is this something you developed over time, or a habit that you created?
I think survivors have an easier time taking action, right? You weren't raised in a wealthy situation. Your mom worked harder than anybody we've probably met before. Yeah. She's an action taker because she had to, right? Yeah. I was raised poor. If I didn't take action, some days we probably wouldn't have eaten, right? You get into a situation where you've had to take action to survive, it becomes a habit for you. For those of you that haven't been in that situation, you're going to have a bigger challenge. You're going to have to find things that motivate you or help you take action. What are you thinking, Chad?
Well, I'm thinking that I don't have the story that you have growing up. I don't have the story that Bob has growing up. I actually have probably that perfect childhood, really. I mean, my parents were divorced, sure, but overall a perfect childhood when it came to it. But that doesn't mean I didn't have obstacles that then came later in life. You just got the lessons earlier than I did. Everybody who's listening to this podcast has had something in their life. They've lost someone. They've been broke at some point. Life isn't just handed to you on a silver platter. So what you're saying is, yeah, survivors, you guys might have grown up with those lessons a little bit stronger. Some of us, and my wife and I, we talk about it all the time. A lot of people are entitled. They're not action takers. Yet at some point, the life's going to kick them, knock them down, and they're going to become one.
Yeah. What we have to understand is that not your neighborhood, not your city, not your state, not your country, not our planet. Somebody said once that the universe rewards action. The universe. That's really freaking big, right?
Big, yeah.
That's not Bellingham, right? That's not Washington State. The universe rewards action. I want to be a part of that. I would like to receive that award. We're going through a crisis right now, a pandemic. This is my first pandemic. My partner in crime in one of our companies, Via, she said, this is my first pandemic. I would like to win it. I thought to myself, I didn't know you could win a pandemic.
Me
Are they
too.
giving trophies? Are they giving medals? Like, how do I win it? I want to win it. Well, how do you win it? You take action.
And we hope that you'll take action by making sure that, one, you subscribe to the Win, Make, Give podcast, and two, that you'll share this episode because you know there's someone out there that needed to hear the message, and let us be the one to share that message with them. Make sure that you're subscribing. Make sure you're leaving us a rating and reviews. We love them. We love reading them. And don't miss joining us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/win-make-give. Until the next time, remember, wash those hands, and as always, do good.